All right. So sorry I left off the introduction. So I was working with a student and I created this class and I left it open, unfortunately. Also, some days when I do a little bit more programming, I'll frequently have a mouse just to make my life a little bit easier. I do not have one today, so sucks to be me. And of course, the mouse is on this computer is being stupid, as mice generally are. All right, so 367. No. Yeah, 367. That makes sense. And today is 8:31. It says it cannot end in a period. Why does it think there is a? I apologize. I can't actually read that. Huh. Oh, I see why. Stupid thing. All right. Leave it off. Works out fine for me. I don't really care. I didn't set a group ID by default, so it doesn't default to like edu.roosevelt or anything like that. I generally don't care. But I do want this to have that dash in there. Oh, I see. Gonna have something, huh? All right, fine. How about that? Boom. How about that? Huh? Huh? Fine. By default, it's going to go ahead and create the source package. Guess what I usually do? Almost always. There'll be times when we don't do this, but yeah, okay, close the thing. I don't have any applications open other than this NetBeans, and I can't close that. All right, so I usually kill that to begin with. Let's go ahead and create an object real quick. So we're going to work with a student. So create new, and then I got a public class student, and the mouse is just being a dick again. There we go. Sorry. And then I'm going to create some fields. So we're going to have an SID. Should we use a string or should we use an integer? Let's use an integer today. I'm going to use SID and then private string name, right? And then private double deeply A. And then what's another one? We might want a major. So let's go ahead and throw a major on there. Okay, this is going to be our class. Now, I'm not here to go over classes too much. Hopefully you remember them a little bit, but I do want to go over this part. This is relatively important. So we're going to go to source, insert code, and then we can add our getters and setters, of course, pretty easily. I'm going to add a getter and setter for each one. If I have special restrictions, like for instance, I want to set the SID only to positive numbers, I can prevent somebody from coming along and setting a private number. So getters and setters are usually pretty important. For this class, you're always going to want getters and setters for all objects all the time, right? Like don't forget to put them on there. We rarely will actually put in filters to prevent like bad values coming in, but we don't, the way the frameworks work, we work with them as data objects, right? So most of our objects aren't really full-fledged objects that do things. They're more objects that just hold values. And so you want those getters and setters. Okay. Then we're going to go to source, insert code. Right. And then I just want to talk about some more. Of course, it's way down there, so we can't see it. Source, insert code. And it's really small, so I know you can't see it. But the first thing it says constructor, logger equals in hash code, toString, delegate method, and override override method, right? Yay! Those are pretty useful when we go to use polymorphism and inheritance. So we're going to talk about those. But for now, we're done, right? Yay! All right. And then I just want to create another class. And this class is going to be a, of course, it doesn't show because I haven't actually used this yet, Java main class. I need to start bringing glasses to school. I wear glasses now for reading purposes. And it usually isn't a big deal because at home I have this giant monitor. But in class I have this, right? And so it's really hard to see, right? Okay, so we have a new main class, and now we can go ahead and manipulate our object. An object that we're going to use temporarily until we have more, so we connect to a database, we need to be able to deal with groups of things. So we're going to have an array list, right? Remember array list is actually 150. And what an array list is it can hold a group of things, right? So like a roster, and it's an array list of students. And I just want to create a new one. And now I have an array list of students. Yay, and then I have to import it because of course it's stupid. But, and then what are we going to do? I'm going to go roster dot, oops. Yeah, I'm going to add a student. Oh, nope, I don't have a student. So I got to create a student. So we go with student A equals new student. And A dot set GPA. We give this guy a 4.0. A dot set major. We're going to make this guy a CS major. And then we're going to make this other guy, I don't know, Bill Gates, maybe. I don't know. And then we're going to set his student ID to be 6. Do you know why 6? When it's your class, you can guess, you can make up your own numbers. I just made it up, but yeah, sorry. That was what I call a joke. So too bad, so sad. Did I tell the joke about the logins yet? I love that joke. I think I did. Pretty sure I did. If I didn't, y'all probably saying yes, just so you can not have to worry about hearing me say the joke again, right? That is always a good way to get a void. Then we're going to set mine to be 2, whatever. And then we have a roster, so we can add A, and then we can add B, right? And then we can print the things in the roster, right? So for int equals 0, except we don't need to do that, right? We have the advanced, which column? So we can go student S, and then we can go the enhanced for loop, excuse me. And then we could say, go through the roster. And what am I going to do? Print out S, right? Nothing special. I'm going to save it because I like to save it. And then I'm going to run the file. Wow. Okay. Hey, look at that. Oh, no, that's not useful. That's hard to see. Well, I get it's pretty small and it's fuzzy as hell. So I got to make that bigger. I'm trying to remember how. Oh, I don't know. Can I make it bigger? I can make this bigger. I can make the code bigger. I don't know if I can make the output bigger. Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking is I don't know how to make the output bigger. Oh, I remember what I can do. Hold on. Boom. No. What's the name of the app? It's built in the window. Yes. There you go. Seriously? It took away the bar. Look at that. There we go. Whoa. There we go. I can live with this. All right, so we see it now, right? That's pretty useless. Which one's Bill Gates? Which one's what's called? Yes. By default, what happens with the object? You guys may recall, it gives you a memory address, right? But it doesn't tell us anything about the object itself, right? It's pretty useless. Yes. And so what do we do? Well, first of all, we turn off the magnifying glass so we can get back to work. So we go back to our student object, go to source, insert code, and then you'll see it says a toString, and we're just going to let it print everything. We don't really care. You can make it pretty if you like and say student is this and make the record look like that. I don't really care. This isn't going to be important for this course at any point. You're going to use essentially, eventually you'll use websites to actually make it pretty. But the object, the code itself will be actually relatively simple, right? So we won't care about that. And this is what a toString looks like. Excuse me. I'm gonna run it again, and then while we're getting it to run, I'm gonna hit the magnifier again. Come on, Nelly. Hey, look at that. We can see that the first student on the list is Bill Gates, GPA major, blah, blah, blah. Yay. This is part of how frameworks work. I'm just going to start here. We know that we're going to print out just a student, right? We're going to print the student. Because I changed the way student works and added that toString method, the system just takes that toString method and uses it in place. This is actually relatively important to what we're about to do. Now, what if I cared about the order? Right? My student ID is lower than Bill Gates, right? My GPA is lower than Bill Gates. What if I wanted to keep the CS kids together? Right? I could also show you how to generate code, right? We need to, what if we only have 2 students, right? We need more students than that. What are you gonna do? We need 30 students. How are we gonna get 30 students? You could go student A equals new student, blah, 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 blah. And then student B equals, no, it's not a good plan. Again, right, Andre? No, it is a very terrible plan, right? Because you will be there forever. And then also student A, B, C, what are you gonna get to? AA eventually? Ooh, I should not say that out loud. Now they've said it out loud. It's not ideal. Right? Like, you know, like with Excel, when you get to the end of the letters, it actually starts repeating, right? You get AA, AB, and so forth. But AA means alcoholic anonymous. That's why it's, you know, whatever. But anyway, sorry. But how we're going to get 30 students? So we can randomize things pretty easily using a very simple array for names, using a very simple array for majors, and then just randomizing the numbers so that they go into the range that we want them to be in. Right? Right. So let's get fancy. Right? As a student that was here not too long ago, she used to say fancy in kind of a funny way. And so I just stole that from her. So you can make it fancy if you like. All right. So, and that's just what we're going to do. We're going to loop 30 times, and then we're going to use randomization code to make it random, right? Like my jokes, not my chickens, but my jokes. So if you guys came earlier, you would know I'm cooking for a charity thing this weekend, and I'm going to cook 8-9 chickens. I'm going to get them pre-skinned. No, not pre-skinned. I want the skin. I want them to be, I'm going to get them pre-plucked. So what's a good first name? What about, no. Andrea, sorry, did it again. So by the way, my kid's kid's speech therapist is Andrea. Yeah, so it's going to be a minute. I apologize. It's not me making fun or anything. And Trisha, by the way, I nail that like with 0 problems. My best friend's sister was Trish, but Patricia was her actual name.
My real name is Patricia.
Oh wait, so but we call everyone. She wanted everybody to call her Trish. So the variation on your name is not causing me any issues.
Sometimes people think my name is Tasha. I'm like,
It's not a terrible name, right? People just used to call me shithead. I mean, you know, no, I'm joking. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. No, but so like Mike, right? It's pretty hard to screw up, right? But I actually don't like being called Mike. I like being called Michael, but like every now and again, I have to correct somebody. All right, so now we're gonna go with quarterbacks. Like Tom Brady, who's the starting quarterback for Mayfield. We got Winston, and because I only want a few, oh shoot, Mariota. Little turnover in NFC South this year. For those of you that follow football, it's quite a bit of turnover in the NFC South. Football conference. It really is. I'm sorry. So string majors, and now we're gonna have some majors. Let's stick with CS. We'll go with the majors at Roosevelt. Data analytics, boom. Right, you create a simple array, right? String array. There's just a string array, right? These are strings. Now, I like, and I don't know why I like this. It makes no sense, so I apologize. But I've always liked last name, comma, space, first name as a format. Maybe you don't. When you get to teach this class, then you can use your own format. But that's the one I like. So that's the one I'll be using. But the fact that I have first names and last names are going to give us a wider variety. If I chose like the typical computer science thing, it's Alice, Bob, Carol, David. I think it goes it goes A, B, C, D, but it's alternates between boy and girl names. You go hurricane names if you chose to. That works the exact same way, by the way. That's where I get that. That's not where computer science gets it from, but works the same way. If you have a longer list of names, obviously you get either more random results. But the fact that we only have 4 last names, you're going to see we're going to have lots of repeats. So now, what is the other things? We have GPA, right? And major and name. Student ID, yeah, that's a number. Let's pick a number between, you guys have 9-digit IDs. I don't like 9-digit IDs. Let's go with a 5-digit ID. Or 3-digit ID, 5-digit ID. You don't care? Really doesn't matter. So, but I'm only going to create 30 names. So the likelihood of even using a 3-digit number, if I have 30 names, the number of repeats would almost be non-existent, right? If I have a larger number, like a 6-digit number, the likelihood of repeats is really non-existent. Not impossible, just really, really, really unlikely, right? Thanks to the pigeonhole theory, it's a mathematical concept. All right, so now let's loop 30 times. Oh, let's create the random variable. Lots of ways to do this. This is the way everybody likes to do it. So we're going to do it the way everybody likes to do it, so we don't piss anybody off. Why is it so hard? Okay, one other thing I want to create is I want my array list. I was talking about this with somebody the other day. When I get in trouble, like I'm in the wrong place, like I fish, right? So if I'm in the wrong place, I'll frequently drop into a Southern accent and just claim like I didn't know what I'm doing. I've gotten out of so much trouble by doing that. People will generally like, if you generally sound like, you know, you're really sorry and you didn't mean to do something, they will generally like be, oh, okay, well, you know, you're not supposed to be over here. Well, I'm sorry, I won't be over here again, right? They will leave you alone. Better than having to deal with somebody like me. All right, so now we're gonna go random and we'll go next int and we want to bounds. Now we want let's go with 5-digit number because bigger number, right? So we need a 5-digit number. What is the total range of 5-digit numbers? No, 0 is a 1-digit number, right? 10,000 is the first 5-digit number. Yes? Theoretically, you can have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? But then you have to figure out how to pad the number, right? We don't want to do that, right? So we're going to drop that 1 in front, right? So we have 10,000. We have 29999, right? So we know we have to start at 10,000, right? But our random number is going to go from 0 to something. So we want the random number to go from 0 to whatever the top number is minus whatever we get to add to the bottom number. Yes. So we know that's 10,000. So the top number is 89,999, right? And then we add 10,000 to it. Now, I have a question. Go back to what he said. What if my number was 00050, right? That's a legitimate 5-digit number. The problem is we can't pad in Java. You can't pad. That is a formatting thing, not a number thing, right? A 5 will not have that padding as an example that you might want. So what can we do? This. These numbers are bullshit numbers anyway. They don't actually have to have actual numbers. Yes, I will show you how to format later. Today, we're going to do this. Yes, boom. All right. In fact, I'm going to show you how to format today, but we'll get there. So S, then we need a GPA, right? And now GPA, we want a next double. Now, a next double goes from 0 to, Noah, do you remember? 0 to 1. Doesn't include 0, but doesn't include 1. So we just want to stretch that out to the range. So we just need to multiply by 4, right? Nobody will ever have a 4.0 though. Again, it's made up. I'm totally fine with that, right? Aren't you guys totally fine with that? I am. So let's just do that. Easy, right? Now the array thing is actually pretty simple too, but we have to cheat. Okay. Now, arrays are valid between the number 0 and length of the array minus 1, right? No matter how big the array is, it's always going to be valid between 0 and the array length minus 1. Yes? So, knowing that, and knowing I can select a random between 0 and a number, I just need to know the array length minus 1, right? Yes? Yes. So we're going to go, I'm going to do this in 2 parts the first time, and then the second time I'm just going to do it. Okay? So we're going to go index, and we're going to go random dot next int, and what is it? Majors dot length. That'll give us a between 0 and the final number, but the final number is not included, so ta-da, works out perfectly. Yay! That gives us a correct index, right? Now, set major to majors, and we use that index. Right? All right, now let's do a little bit more complicated one. String name equals, what do we say? L names first? Bing. Random dot next int L names dot length. Boom. And this is a string, right? So we can go blink, bink, 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 right? And then I'm gonna do this in 2 parts because it's just easier. And then, oops, that's exactly what I was hoping for. So when you copy and paste, there's nothing wrong with copy and pasting, but what do we need to do? We need to verify it is doing what you expect it to do. The more you blindly copy and paste, the more you will actually work. Yes. So I don't recommend doing it, but anyway, whatever. Now we can set the name. And we have a name, and now we have a fully randomized student. Now we can add them to the roster. And now we can, for student in roster, and I did that wrong. For those that don't know, there's a bunch of shortcuts and I don't know what any of them are. A student showed me this one. You type SOUT and for tab, it automatically converts it to system out print line. So I don't know where those came from. So don't know. But randomization code is actually really important. Why? Because I'm not really going to give you a list of student names or a list of employee names. We have to fake it. Right? When I worked at the Navy, I had no access to actual, like 0 access to soldier records, right? And I didn't have the clearance level to have that. So I still had to do work, right? So we had to randomize we had to randomize input in order to be able to do that. All right, let's go ahead and set magnifier, and then we'll be able to see that real quick. Quick lack, right? And then you can see you have Brady Riley, Trisha Mayfield, Omar Mayfield, Jesus Winston, and so forth. Yay! Now, Brady, pick on one. Well, don't want to scroll the list, but we have 2 Winston Noahs there, right? As an example, that's pretty common. Okay, you only have 5 first names and then 4 last names. So, right, you can actually calculate the odds of having duplicates. By the way, we don't care, and I don't care either. Right, I really won't care. You will need to generate names at some level, some basis. Right, you just do it just like I just did here. Please do use my code as much as you like. But you can see that you are going to get duplicates, but that's fine. If you really wanted to avoid duplicates, what do? Just add more and more names to that list, and that would easily make sure you don't have duplicates. Okay, as you can see, the GPA is printed out a little wonky, right? Little wonky. Huh?
Just looking at some of the GPAs.
It was, so Jesus Winston, this one right under the cursor, has a GPA of 0.10.
I don't even know how you get it that low. You have to try.
No, so most colleges wouldn't let you get a GPA that low. That means they allowed you to continue taking classes, even though you haven't passed anything, except for one thing where you got a D, right? You could get a GPA that level, but it would be unlikely that college would allow you to do that. That means that 10% of the credit hours earned, that's how many you got 10% of the quality points, right? So that's not ideal. That's 1D in 10 classes, right? Something like that. Or no, I guess you could. Wait, I got one for you. Suppose you had 15 hours, right? 15 times 4 is 20, right? So you need, what is it? 10% of the 20. So you need 2 points, right? So you got 2, no. Yeah, you can't even get 1D, right? Because 1D would be 4 total quality points, right? Yeah, I don't know if it's possible. You'd have to take a lot of courses to get there.
0.01.
Yeah, but whatever. You could backwards calculate it and figure out how you could actually get that many quality points. But I'm going to tell you, oh no, we were wrong. So you took 15 hours. That's 30. So you need 3 points, right? So you got 3 Ds and 4 Fs, or 3 Ds and 2 Fs. Should get you the quality points to get you to 0.10. I don't recommend it, by the way, Omar. Just throwing that out there. No, joking. But you know, this is what the hazards of code generation are, right? I mean, that's just what they are. When you guys actually have the web development stuff out, we're actually going to have you highlight things like low GPAs and so forth if you choose to do that, right? It's pretty easy to do that. But my point of pointing out the GPAs being what they are is, if I asked you what your GPA is, and I obviously don't want to ask because, you know, like private information to yourself, but most of you would not say, let's pick a good one, 3.79794154119038 right? Pretty much. Trisha, a lot of work to say all that, right? What would it be?
First decimal number.
Most of you have 2 decimals, right? If you go look in degree works. Yeah. Yes? So it should be at most 2 decimal points, right? We don't need to see all that other crap. It's very easy to do. There's 2 things we're going to do, and I don't know how to do it like easily, but I'm going to show you how to do currency at some point today, because you need to learn how to do currency. But to do this, we just need to remember what a number is, right? A double is a number to a certain number of decimal points, right? So what can we do? We can shift the decimal points over, truncate, and then shift them back, right? Yes, we can. That absolutely works. So for example, 3.985258, blah, 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 right? We shift it over. So it becomes 398, 5, blah, 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 right? Then we do what? We just truncate it, just make it an integer, and it becomes 398. And then we divide 100 back out of it, and what do we get? 3.98. That is one way to do it. Does that round? No. So 3.985 should be what? 3.99, right? If you're rounding. But you can only round to the nearest one. So if I round and use the rounding function, what do I get? I'd actually get 4, right? 3.9 would become 4. That's not what we want, but we can do the shift thing again. I can shift to 39, make it 39, multiply it by 10 and shift it to 39, then round, right? Nope. Not quite, right? Because that would make it 40. Again, same problem, right? We could actually shift it over to 398, just like we did before, divide, multiply by 100, and then do the rounding, right? Sounds like a pain in the ass to me. There could be another way to do it. What if I added 0.005 to the number? That would do the rounding automatically every time, twice on Sunday. Let's see it. All right. It seems complicated, but it's not. And you know what's funny about it is that nobody believes, like, it's like that is just how decimal points work. This is something you learn in, I think, second grade, third grade. So this isn't a new concept by any stretch of the imagination. So we're going to just change GPA to be a new string GPA. That's it. So the first thing we want to do is get an integer. And GPA, let's go attempt, equals GPA times 100. Right, that's going to give us 398. Yay. And of course it's GPA, right? And then what can we do? We need this to be an integer, right? We can cast it to be an integer, and that would make it an integer. Yes? Bro, we forgot our rounding. I don't want to do the rounding yet. I'm going to do the truncating. Yes? Now I'm going to get a double. We're going to call it the 2s, which means two string, right? And then we're going to say equals GPA divided by 100.0. Make sure to add that 0.0, because otherwise, what do you get? You get an integer divided by an integer, and you don't get anything useful. You get zeros, right? Or you get threes or whatever. So, and then instead of GPA here, we're going to print GPA 2s. And then we're just going to run the other code again. We don't need to do anything special, just run the other code again. It should not take that long. Stupid computer. Yay, and we see our GPA doing what we actually expect our GPA to do. I'm going to leave off the rounding. We would just add 0.5 to the GPA before we and leave off the rounding for now. We just add 0.5 to the GPA before we divide it, before we made it an integer. But you can see now it's the GPA is 3.75. Yay. All right, let's do, I want to close the magnifier. I'm sorry, this is getting too big, too big, too big, too big. All right, so let's do some inheritance real quick and just do a really simple one because we're not really going to do inheritance, right? Like not in the normal sense, right? You're not going to create like a class and then use the both classes and those type of things. You're actually going to extend classes that are well known for a framework. Well, let's go suppose we're going to create a graduate student. And that extends student. Once I do that, graduate student is a student. So it has all the fields and things that a student would have, except now we can add extra fields. So for instance, I can add a, should have said double. undergraduate GPA, and we can add fields, we can add methods, we can add things to it, but we can also extend it methods so that it does different things, right? So you go, what do you mean? You remember when it did the source inserts code? You can say override method. Well, which method do we want to override? In our case, we don't have any methods, so we're going to actually get the toString. There it is, right? We're going to generate the toString override method, right? Come on, yay. So this is just doing the toString from student. That's what it says, super blah, blah, blah. But we're going to do this. We're going to just grab it. I'm going to cheat because I like cheating and we're running out of time and I don't want to spend a long time doing this. So, because I have something else more important than I wish to do. Okay, so here we go. Except we can't use the GPA directly because we're extending the class, so we don't have access to it. So we have to go get GPA, right? We have to actually get the GPA. What I'm going to do here, though, sorry, I gotta order the operations, so I apologize. There we go. That should work. Okay, so I'm adding that 0.5, so now it should be rounding. I have to change all these to gets, so. I think we got it. And I'm just going to add a little note at the beginning to say G student. Yay. All right. Wait, just unhappy about something. What do we screw up? Oh, yep. Can't return both of these things. Only one of these things can be true. I think, okay. I think, all right. So to avoid actually having more work and having to do more work, right? You're like, wait, what? I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. This is going to seem stupid, but fun, right? If random dot get, oops, random exists, right? Random dot next, there we go. Boolean. Right. So sometimes I'm going to create a student. Sometimes I'm going to create a graduate student. Random dot next Boolean is flipping a coin. Yeah. We should actually set flip. Like that would be cool, but it doesn't. And this has got two important ramifications we'll talk about in a second. One, a graduate student is a student. Anywhere a student can be, graduate student, since it is a student, can be there as well. That's the notion of polymorphism. The magnifier glass down there below. There you go. G student Winston, Trisha Winston is an example. And their GPA is actually going to round as opposed to undergraduate students, which is going to truncate, right? Because I changed the behavior of that particular method. That's the benefit of polymorphism. What's actually happening is when I call the method for the graduate student, instead of, it thinks it's a student, but instead of calling the student's method, it actually calls the object's method. And the object has a overridden method, so it's going to call that one. So the toString that gets called is the one for graduate student. That's important because what we're going to do is we're going to use a framework. And the framework has a bunch of classes, and some we'll never use, and some we'll never need to use. But when we do need to use them, what do? We override the ones we need to use, and then we use those methods. That's 100% of what we're going to do later on. Now, I'll go over it in a little bit more detail when we go over it, but if you look in your chapters from 1-250 and look over inheritance and polymorphism, it's pretty useful to do that, okay? Let's see. All right, let's do sorting, just so you have an idea how that works. Okay, so with student, we have a sorting mechanism we can apply by doing another type of polymorphism. Polymorphism is polymorphism, we get it. But we can do another type of, instead of extending a class, we can implement a interface. We use this quite a bit as well. In fact, half of what we do in terms of polymorphism and inheritance in using the framework that we're going to use is going to be actually extending, and we're not implementing a interface more than anything else, right? And what happens is the framework sees that the interface has been implemented and then uses the implemented interface instead of its default. And that's how it works. Yay! Right? Okay. So what interface are we going to implement? We're going to implement comparable. And what are we going to compare it with? Another student. You go, wait, what? Oops. Sorry, it's implements. Now, when I do implements, I say I'm going to implement this interface. It says implement all abstract methods. If I do that, it goes ahead and puts the signature down below so I can make it my class my own. See? And I can compare to. Now, if I look into the thing, now this is a little different than the other thing. You should have encountered this in 250 if you've encountered sorting it in the mechanism. If you haven't, look up the comparable interface, but it's really simple. One means that the object I'm being given is bigger than me. -1 means I'm bigger than the object I'm being given. Right? And then 0 means we're equal. Yes. However you want to compare yourself to another object, right? Now, we're going to do it on ID just because it's easier. But what's true about what I said? If it's a positive number, I'm bigger. If it's negative, the other number's bigger. If it's 0, they're the same, right? And I'm going to use an integer to do the comparison. What's an easy way to see if one number is bigger than the other number? Subtract it, right? Suppose you got $5 and he's got $7. Which one's bigger? Subtract it, and if the number is positive or negative, we know which one's bigger, right? That's the basic premise that we're going to use. So I had some bad news. So how many of you know about the alligator or the shark, right? Alligator wants to eat the bigger one, right? Less than, greater than? Alligator? Yes? Okay. The good news, bad news. I get this wrong all the time. Wait, what? I switch them all the time. Right? One of the things you hear about, like in liberal arts studies, is know thyself, right? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I know I screw up in this way a lot, so I know that I'm going to do it. Pay close attention to this. Otherwise, you'll make me curse at some point. It always pisses me off. Like at some level, it always makes me go, son of a bitch. At some point, I'll go, son of a bitch, because I switched the numbers. It's rookie mistake kind of thing, but it's something I've been making for 20 years. So, oh well. Anyway, there's a number of ways to do this, but the easiest way is just simply return SID minus O dot. I like to do get SID. If that number is greater than 0, boom, it works. If it's less than 0, boom, it works. If it's 0, that means their IDs were the same. Boom, it works. This always works. Yes. Now comes the awesome part. You remember my roster and I printed it out? It's an array list, right? Now the array list is a collection, right? Well, because I know a little bit about how the collection framework works, I can call collections, which is a utility method for collections, and I can say sort. And I'm going to sort a list of comparables. And that should sort them by SID, which I created earlier. Yes. This is the benefit or the power, if you will, of using frameworks. How many sorting methods do I have to write? None. I know that there's a sorting method here. All I have to do is tap into it by extending comparable. The second I extend comparable, I can tap into this. That's what we'll be doing throughout the class, right? So let's run it. And it should be sorted. Now, here's the part. Here's the part that I think is funny. I usually flip those. I flip those backwards sometimes. And so this might be sorted in reverse. Worst that'll happen, it'll be sorted in reverse. I feel like I've done worse standing on my head. So I haven't ever deleted anything that was important. I have friends that have. I have a friend that got fired for doing something inappropriate, deleting something they shouldn't have. But you can see, I did in fact get it right now. The student IDs are in order. Okay. So, yay. Now I can actually create comparables, comparators for anything, right? You can only create, if you have an object for like say student, you can only create a comparable for the student, right? Because comparable is part of the student, you can't have 6 comparables, right? So you can only do one, but there is a second interface that you can use called comparator, but you can't put it inside the class. You have to actually make it separate. So we're going to do that real quick and show you how that works. And we're going to sort based on name. What do you think, Trisha? Name? What do you want to sort on? Okay, how do I get out of my name? Oh, okay, there we go. I was starting to get nervous. So we're going to create a new class and we're going to call it, I always call it name of the class that I'm going to sort based on the field I wish to sort on. Does that make sense? So we said name or we said major? I don't remember. Name. Okay. Give me anything you want it to be, right? Now, oh, I hate that. I hate that when it does it in the wrong spot. Oh, that's even better. There we go. All right, there's nothing in it, except I'm gonna go implements, comparator. This is really important. Don't forget to add what you're gonna compare. Then it says add import, because you have to add import because Java is stupid. And it needs to be told all things. It says implement all abstract methods. And then you see a bunch of crap. The only thing you care about is compare, right? And you have a compare and student 1 and pair student 2. Now, strings are not integers, not integers. So what can I not do in an integer? Can't do the subtraction piece, right? Or could I? I could, but it'd be stupid. You can convert it to a number and then subtract them, but that is meaningless. So don't do that. That's really dumb. Don't do that. But you can actually convert just about anything to a number, just like you could. It's typically called a hash code, but it's a very bad idea, right? So don't do that. But I love this. You remember how I told you comparable is something built into the language? What if I told you that string is a comparable? It is. You know what that means? I can use that compare to we used a minute ago to answer this question, right? So I can do this, something like this. Watch. Return 1 dot shoot. Get, what did it say? Name. It was name, right? Now we have a string, and string is compared to, right? Say what? And then 2 dot get name. And my friends, that'll work. The only one that's weird and the only one that I have to tell you about is double. Double is the only one that you can't screw around with. So what do I mean by that? Double is the one you actually have to write out. If this is less than this one, do this. If it's more than this one, do that. And the reason for that is doubles are never 0. One is always greater than or less than. But the fact is that the way doubles are actually represented in the language, it's very, 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 very unlikely that they're ever equal. So we usually use what we call a delta. And that means whether, if you're within, like, say, there's a number of ways to do it, but if you're within, 1/100th of each other, then they're equal, right? So for instance, if your dollar amounts are equal, right? If you're within a penny of each other or not within a penny of each other, if you're 1/10 of a penny of each other, it's equal, right? The pennies match up, you're equal, right? You can make it dollar amounts equal, right? But we typically use a delta with that. But numbers and strings are the 2 most common things we sort on. Boom. All right, I only have 2 more things more to show you with the sorting, but let's go ahead and note, I'm going to comment this stuff out. I'm not actually trying to delete it. We tap back into the collections, right? We sort. And oops, I was going to show you how that. So I need to slow it down. Sort. And you saw that I have a list and I have an option of choosing a comparator. So I'm going to go new student name comparator. Yep. And that's going to compare people based on their names. All right, so let's go and magnify. I'm going to make the code bigger tomorrow, but I can't. I don't think no matter what I do, I don't think I can make the results bigger. I'm going to double check that, by the way. So, but there we go. And as you can see, it's sorted by name. Yeah. Mayfield's number 4 Winston's, and you can see there's 2 Andrea Winston's, right? 2 Jesus Mayfields as well. Right? I use the NFC South quarterbacks, right? Baker Mayfield. Yes. For those who don't know, right? But we can sort based on anything we want. Yes. The thing is that we are not going to extend classes for the sake of extending classes. We're never going to do that. We're going to create classes like a student we just created that just holds a name, a string, ints, and those things, right? They're going to be pulled right out of our database. That's the purpose of what we're going to be doing. We're going to extend classes only based on the classes that we need to extend from our framework system. So just like the collections, we get to use sort. We use sort, but we need a comparator in order to do it, right? So in our case, we're going to create a class that's going to allow us to tap into that framework, right? And then we'll specify endpoints by extending stuff and so forth. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail, but if I was going to review a chapter from 250, I might review the inheritance and the polymorphism chapter. Yes, it's 1 chapter, I think, chapter, it's like 9 or 10. I'm not sure. But if I was going to review 1 chapter and just flip through it, that would be the chapter I would look at. Okay, now that's pretty much what I wanted to review. 2 things we're going to use in this review, guaranteed. Not going to be able to avoid it, sorry. When we're not actually using a database, we'll need to use a list. So we'll need the list stuff. But really simple. Create a list, add things to the list, loop through the list. Not like we have to do really complicated things, right? Second thing is we're going to talk about the generation of code, right? So we generated a student in this case, but you're going to want to generate whatever you want to generate, right? So maybe you guys have fantasy points outlined, right? I'm trying to think of the name of that show. Not name of the show. Hot dog eating people, and you're going to create a fantasy what is it called? What is the name of those people? Eating competitors?
Oh.
Competitive eating, right? You're gonna create fantasy competitive eating. Don't laugh. Maybe that's something you create, right? So seriously, check it out. There's I don't know if you're into that sort of thing, but there is a speed record for the amount for the how fast one can eat a jar of mayonnaise. Yeah, that's something that you could do.
Did they add water and down it down?
So the whole idea of the water for the hot dog eating contest is to minimize the amount of air. It doesn't cause as much gas. But mayonnaise doesn't have the air inside. Yes. I did it as a bet one time. I ate a spoonful of mayonnaise. It's pretty gross. I was that kid. Bet you won't do that. I bet you I will. Right? Somebody, the grossest one I think I can recall was apple cider vinegar, and it was just a cup of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty awful. But anyway, go back to what we're saying is generating names, generating IDs, generating values, dollar amounts, all these things are something you're going to need to do. So I did that. The sorting mechanism we showed you, you're not going to need to do that. Databases do all that for us. We don't really need to sort. The purpose of this sorting mechanism was to show you how inheritance ties into frameworks and why it's important. We're going to do a lot of that. We didn't do a lot of extending methods today because all of it would have been just kind of jokey, right? We did the 2-string, right? But we're going to do a lot more of that when we go into our spring framework, and I'll discuss why and what's happening and so forth as we do that. Okay. All right. Trying to think what else I reviewed. That was important. Yeah, the hot dog eating contest, right? Right, maybe the fantasy hot dog eating thing, right? You don't have to create names, how fast you can eat a jar of mayonnaise, whatever. Yes.
Are we gonna be using like from
NetBeans, yes.
okay.
NetBeans is free. Easiest way to download it. You can always talk about it offline. But what I typically do is I download the Java JDK. So let me do that real quick. Just, in case anybody's confused. Why is it not just opening? What is going on? It's like right click. It's like right clicking everything. So you want the most recent JDK? It doesn't really matter. JDK is Java Development Kit. It's free as well. It's usually Java downloads. I always Google it because that way I get I don't have to guess, you know what I mean? And then Java 18 is looks like it's the most recent. And then, so the first thing I do is, well, I'm on Windows, so I want the Windows x64 because I happen to be using Windows 64-bit. If you're using Mac, use Mac, whatever. So I download it, and then once I have it downloaded, then I can go to NetBeans. See, now I don't have to goof around. You go to netbeans.org, which is now Apache, right? And then you can download the most recent one, which is actually 14 apparently. And then once you have the JDK installed, I showed you a minute ago, then you can go and do the Apache NetBeans. Do one, then do the other. There was a time when unfortunately, it wasn't even that long ago, a couple of years ago, they had a package where you just download them all together and just run. I used to tell people, just run this, and it would do everything. Not the case anymore.
Also, do you like upload these like classes?
So 2 things. One, I ran into a buzzsaw at the end of class last Monday. So it didn't upload. So 2 things. I'm gonna answer your question, I promise. So I ran into a buzzsaw last class. So I did record all of last class, but I just did not get to post it onto YouTube and then onto Blackboard. I will, obviously, I just haven't been able to do that, and that'll happen today too. As long as all hell doesn't break loose again. They were trying to assign a GA position to somebody that's not actually at Roosevelt, so, yeah, not ideal. So I had to go run and deal with that. And then by the time I got that dealt with, it was 2 o'clock and I had to leave, so happened. But usually I'll post those usually the next day. It takes quite a long time to encode it and then post it onto YouTube and then put the link on Blackboard, but I will do that. All slides that you would ever see that I would present, as well as all code that would present, would also go online. Those will be online like right after class, because that doesn't take many time to do. But the videos will actually take some time. Yay! And the other thing is too, is I can make the code bigger. I don't know how I make this bigger, so I'm gonna look into that. But I have bad news. If and when I do that, it makes it really hard to see anything on the screen. So the bigger it make it, the harder it is for me to see stuff on the screen. So I'll figure out how to make it bigger, but I really have no idea. Yes. In the meantime, we can use magnifying glass. We won't need to use that much in the future. All right, I just want to point out a couple things too. We're going to go right into, I think we're about to go right into web development. I'm not sure I posted a whole bunch of the slides ahead of, in fact, I'm pretty sure I did not. Where's my, oh, stupid computer. I also have a healthy disdain for computers in general, right? Say never do what you tell them to do. Actually, I take that back. They do exactly what you tell them to do, and that's the problem. But we're going to go into database management system, SQL, and I have some slides that I'm going to show you in relation to that, with a lot of, not code per se, but a lot of like SQL on it. And then we go into introduction to JDBC and Derby. When we do that, that's going to be another slide presentation, but that's a lot of code, right? Because there's 3 things that we have to do. We have to do 3 things. 1, we need to know about SQL so we can interact with the database. 2, we need Java, our code that we connect to Java, to interact with the database. That's what JDBC is designed to do. Yes? It sounds stupid, so you need to do it, right? Most modern programming languages have the JDBC form of some sort. ODBC is a typical Windows type infrastructure. But then in 9.14, we're going to actually do code and put it all together and do some examples. Yes? It's going to involve a lot of generation like we just did. We'll generate things. We'll make a list, print it out. We'll go through the, right? We'll select some stuff. We'll delete some stuff and, right? CRUD. You can hear me say that a lot. Create, read, update, and delete. We need to be able to do our CRUD operations, so we'll be doing that as a basic thing. I'll also show you when we're actually reading the database, show you how to select and look at various things as well. Okay, but that's what we're going to be doing over the next week. I will make sure today to make sure those slides are available. I'll try to be a week in advance, but this week has not gone according to plan. So I'm right on track with my Clash of Clans stuff though, but you know. You don't believe me, do you? No, I'm just kidding. That's gonna be a running joke now. But anyway, yeah, so I'll make sure to post everything online. It's the fact that I haven't already. The syllabus is already online, but the code from today, everything that I do in class, every artifact I share with you in class will also be shared online. Yes. The only exception is every now and again, I show, like sometimes I'll show an average or something. Like we don't have any tests in this class, but you know, I'll show an average with different ways of curving, like a homework or an exam. I don't usually share that artifact, but that's not that I do. Any questions, problems, complaints? You want to see pictures of the chicken or they didn't happen? I will do that. I'll also show you pictures of my new hobby, sailing.